Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Barbara Sam. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. White House highlights success in illegal immigration crackdown during Trump's first 100 days. Trump pushes for a Russia-Ukraine peace deal within 2 weeks. Trump administration rejects Kentucky's request for Real ID extension, signals strict enforcement. Cruz pressures Princeton to dismiss professor over alleged Iran ties, citing threat to student safety. White House praises new Gulf oil production as boost for American energy. And now to the news. The White House has marked President Donald Trump's first 100 days back in office by showcasing sharp decreases in illegal immigration and expanded deportation efforts. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, Chief Tom Homan and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt outlined Operation Tidal Wave, describing it as the largest deportation campaign in U.S. history, while crediting Trump policies with restoring national security. According to Homan, illegal border crossing have dropped by 96% since Trump took office, reversing what he called the Biden administration's purposeful dismantling of border security. Homan noted that under previous administrations, even Democrats like President Clinton and Obama prioritized border enforcement, unlike Biden, who he accused of deliberately creating vulnerabilities. Leavitt emphasized that ICE officers previously constrained under Biden are now empowered to carry out their duties fully. Trump's administration reported deporting over 100,000 illegal immigrants by early April and recently invoked the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan gang members from Guantanamo Bay to El Salvador, a move currently facing court challenges. The administration plans additional briefings this week, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bassett scheduled to address economic achievements next. The White House officials indicated that the immigration crackdown is only the beginning of broader enforcement actions intended to continue throughout Trump's second term. Watch this.
Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. We'll get them out.
The White House hopes to highlight an illegal immigration crackdown as one of the defining policies of President Donald Trump's first 100 days of his second term.
One of President Trump's central campaign promises was to secure the border and end this invasion. The president has overwhelmingly delivered on that promise.
Dozens of immigrant mugshots with various crimes listed now dot the White House lawn. But the immigration crackdown has also been notable for controversy. Most recently, 3 U.S. citizen children from 2 families were removed from the country and sent to Honduras. White House border czar Tom Homan insisted they went with their mothers who were being deported.
What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision, parenting 101. The mothers made that choice.
Over the weekend, hundreds of arrests of alleged illegal immigrants were made in Florida and Colorado. The DEA busted an underground nightclub in Colorado Springs that yielded more than 100 arrests.
What was happening inside was significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence.
Immigration routinely polls as the president's strongest issue.
President Donald Trump has declared he hopes to finalize a peace deal to end the Russian-Ukraine war in 2 weeks or less, following a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican during Pope Francis's funeral. Later, President Trump clarified that a little more time could be acceptable, but emphasized urgency in reaching an agreement. Secretary of State Marco Rubio echoed Trump's call for swift action, stating that Russia and Ukraine are closer to a deal than at any point over the past 3 years, but added that significant work remains. Rubio called the coming week critical in determining whether continued U.S. involvement and mediation is warranted. Trump expressed disappointment that Russia continued missile and drone attacks after he urged President Vladimir Putin to halt hostilities. Trump acknowledged that retaking Crimea would be complicated, suggesting Ukraine may have to accept the loss of the territory seized by Russia in 2014 under the Obama administration. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer warned that Trump might concede too much to Putin in negotiations, while National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said additional sanctions against Russia remain under consideration to pressurize Moscow into finalizing a settlement. Watch this.
Well, they did, very briefly, but Crimea was given away by Barack Hussein Obama and by Biden. That's 11 or 12 years ago. That's a long time ago. I don't know how you can bring up Crimea, because that's been a long time. Nobody brought it up for 12 years, and now they bring it up now. So I told them, you can maybe go back to Obama, ask him why they gave it up. They gave it up without a shot being fired, by the way.
What did he tell you, Mr. President?
He told me that he needs more weapons, but he's been saying that for 3 years, you know. He needs more weapons, and we're going to see what happens. I want to see what happens with respect to Russia, because Russia has been surprised and disappointed, very disappointed that they did the bombing of those places after discussions.
Is Zelensky ready to give up Crimea, do you think, Mr. President?
Oh, I think so, yeah. Look, Crimea was 12 years ago. That was President Obama. They gave it up without a shot being fired. So don't talk to me about Crimea. Talk to Obama and Biden about Crimea.
I was just wondering what Zelensky thought.
And remember, this is Biden's war. This isn't Trump's war. I came in to try and solve a problem. And the problem is so many people are being killed. Well, I want him to stop shooting, sit down and sign a deal. And we have the confines of a deal, I believe. And I want him to sign it and be done with it and just go back to life.
The Trump administration has confirmed there will be no extension to the May 7th Real ID deadline, rejecting Kentucky lawmakers' request for more time. The Transportation Security Administration, known as TSA, reiterated that travelers must present a Real ID compliant license or an acceptable alternative, such as a passport or military ID, to board domestic flights starting next week. Kentucky legislators cited long appointment wait times and limited licensing access as the reason for the extension request, noting only about 40% of residents currently possess a Real ID. TSA officials warned that travelers without proper identification should expect delays at checkpoints and clarified that illegal aliens without a Real ID would only be permitted to fly if self-deporting. Senator Jack Reed separately asked DHS Secretary Kristi Noem how TSA plans to manage potential delays, highlighting that 20% of U.S. air travelers still lack compliant identification. Despite state concerns, the administration emphasized that full enforcement will proceed as mandated by Congress. The Real ID Act, signed into law in 2005 under President George W. Bush, faced years of resistance from states over privacy and cost concerns. With the deadline now imminent, states continue scrambling to ensure compliance amid warnings of airport disruptions for non-compliant passengers. Watch this.
It's a sight being seen nationwide, long lines at the DMV as Americans rush to apply for the Real ID, marked by a star at the top of your license. Well, if you don't have it, you have until May 7th. But some Kentucky lawmakers are looking to extend that date.
Kentucky is simply not ready, and we're not compliant yet with Real ID. Kentucky was kind of late to the game on Real ID. We didn't implement it till 2019. Then COVID hit, and we've been playing catch up.
Kentucky State Senator Jimmy Higdon, alongside other state leaders, sent a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, formally asking for this deadline extension. Well, Higdon says he's heard concerns from Kentuckians regarding long lines and a lack of appointments. He says the multiple deadline extensions could have played a role.
We've had so many delays in the past that, when they set this deadline for May the 7th, I think a lot of people didn't take it serious.
If the Real ID deadline takes effect May 7th, those without a star at the top of their driver's license could see the impacts when trying to go through airport security. Higdon says then the delays won't just be at the DMV.
Confusion will move to the airports and the TSA when people come through without a Real ID compliant identification. We'll see some real problems.
Higdon says he's anticipating to hear from Nome. Meanwhile, he also says he's open to other states reaching out and a collective call to extend the deadline.
The news will be back after this break.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. We are finally putting America first. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. More production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart. This will be indeed the golden age.
Welcome back. Senator Ted Cruz has called on Princeton University to remove Saeed Hussein Mosavani, a former Iranian regime official now employed at the school, citing concerns for student safety amid rising anti-Semitic on campus. Cruz criticized Princeton's continual employment of Mosavani, warning it provides a platform for anti-American propaganda, and said the Trump administration is reassessing federal funding for the university. Mosavani, a Middle East policy specialist, has drawn controversy for alleged past support for terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, and for his participation in the funeral of Iranian terrorist Qasim Soleimani. Princeton students and Jewish organizations have also raised concerns, pointing to Mosavani's alleged connection to Iranian regime activities, including the oversight of dissident assassination in Europe. Calls for action intensified following anti-Semitic disruptions at a recent campus event and renewed scrutiny over Mosavani's academic credentials. Princeton President Christopher X. Gruber has yet to address these concerns publicly, despite pressure from lawmakers and religious leaders to act decisively against rising anti-Semitic and potential security risks. Investigations continue into Mosavani's background, including questions about the existence of his claimed PhD from the University of Kent. Freedom of Information requests have so far failed to produce the dissertation, raising further doubts about his academic standing, while calls for transparency from Princeton persist. Microsoft President Brad Smith has urged the U.S. government to increase funding and strategic focus on quantum computing, warning that China could surpass the United States and pose serious risk to national security and economic competitiveness. In a statement, Smith called on President Donald Trump administration to prioritize quantum research, renew the National Quantum Initiative Act, and expand Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, known as DARPA, programs related to quantum technology. Smith emphasized the urgency of building a U.S.-based quantum supply chain, expanding educational pipelines, and fast-tracking immigration for PhD graduates skilled in quantum technologies. He warned that if China were to achieve a major breakthrough, it could compromise encrypted financial transactions and sensitive government data, including nuclear systems. Quantum computing companies, including Microsoft and Google, have made notable advancements, but industry experts agree it could take decades to achieve full operational quantum systems. Microsoft new Majorana quantum chip currently contains 8 qubits. For short, one of million qubits the company says are needed for practical commercial applications. The Trump administration is weighing proposals to bolster American technologies and leadership as part of its broader agenda to ensure U.S. dominance in critical emerging sectors. The White House has celebrated the launch of oil production from a French-U.S. corporate venture in the Gulf of America as proof that President Donald Trump's agenda to restore American energy dominance is succeeding. Chevron and Total Energies began producing oil from the deepwater Ballymore oil field off the coast of Louisiana and Mississippi, a project where Chevron holds a 60% stake. According to a White House spokesperson, Trump's policies are driving confidence among energy leaders, resulting in increased domestic production, reduced regulatory burdens, and decreased dependency on foreign oil. Rogers said the administration is committed to ensuring affordable energy and economic relief for Americans. Chevron stated the Ballymore field is expected to produce up to 75,000 barrels of oil per day through 3 wells tied to its Blind Faith platform. The field holds an estimated 150 million barrels of recoverable oil and operates in the Mississippi Canyon of a depth of 6,600 feet. Chevron and Total Energies executives emphasize the project's on-time, on-budget completion and its focus on low emissions development. Total Energies' U.S. operations date back to 1957, and the company has invested nearly $11 billion in American energy projects since 2022, particularly in low emissions oil and liquefied natural gas exports. The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
The countdown to the Lord's soon return has begun, and in this first quarter of the year of completeness, Loveworld USA has indeed been spreading and preaching the gospel of our Lord Jesus, preparing the hearts of billions around the world to expect the Lord.
Year, we will complete the full preaching of the gospel in all nations.
Loveworld USA broadcasted life-changing programs with our man of God. Global Communion Service, Your Loveworld Specials, Global Day of Prayer, Healing Streams. Loveworld News, where we emphasize truth and deception. Truth Watch USA, where Americans are exposed to the truth. Topics such as the failed agenda of so-called globalists, what's really happening to your food, President Trump, a sign to the church. Prayer programs where effective prayers were offered. Tremendous power. Pray for America. Faith-filled programs like I'm Just Saying, Pastor Chris Worth reading, Stick to the Word, programs with Pastor Benny, and many more. We say thank you, dearest partners, for contributing towards our programming and daily operations through your partnership. Loveworld USA is positioned for a massive harvest of souls all around the world as we set our sail to reach more people in this second quarter, in more languages, and change more lives. This is a call to our dearest partners all over the world to join this mandate in completing the full preaching of the gospel to all nations as you sponsor our 2025 projects. 1. Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. Ensure the spread of the message of the man of God through Loveworld USA. The spread of our ministry programs and agenda through satellite, cable, internet, digital, mobile apps, Alpha TV, OTT platforms, our news, and our current affairs. 2. Minutes to Reach Billions 4.0. Make your every minute count for the gospel as we spread the awareness of Loveworld USA to your world. 3. Translation of our language-specific channels. Make it possible for billions around the world to watch our programs in their native language. 4. Tag your name to a program. Sponsor and tag your name to our various Loveworld USA programs. You can adopt a specific program. 5. Studio upgrade. Join us today with your lavish gift to the work of Loveworld USA. Every SPs or dollar you give goes to accomplishing our mandate to fully preach the gospel with our life-transforming content. For more information, please call the number showing on your screen. God bless you.
Welcome back. India and Pakistan have continued exchanging gunfire along the de facto Kashmir border for a 4th consecutive night on Sunday, intensifying fears of broader military escalation between the two nuclear-armed nations. The Indian Army reported responding to unprovoked small arms fire from multiple Pakistani Army posts around midnight, although no casualties have been confirmed. The renewed hostilities follow the killings of 26 civilians last week in the Indian-administered Kashmir town of Pahalgam. Indian authorities have accused Pakistan of sponsoring the attack, alleging that the assailants targeted Hinduist Pacific, while Islamabad has denied any involvement and called for an independent investigation. In response to the violence, India has suspended the Indus Waters Treaty and sealed its land border with Pakistan. Islamabad, in turn, has closed its airspace to Indian airlines, further straining relations. Indian security forces have detained approximately 500 people and launched extensive search operations to capture those responsible for the attack. Meanwhile, the militant group Kashmir Resistance, also known as the Resistance Front, issued a statement on Sunday denying responsibility for the killings. The group alleged that an earlier claim of responsibility was the result of a cyber attack intended to implicate them falsely. Watch this.
The town of Pahalgam has begun to return to normal following last week's deadly attack on tourists in Kashmir. But India said on Monday it had responded to unprovoked small arms firing from Pakistan along the de facto border for the 4th consecutive night. The Pakistani military did not respond to a request for comment. After the April 22 attack that killed 26 tourists, India has identified 2 of the 3 suspected militants as Pakistani. Security officials said survivors have said the militants targeted Hindus before shooting them at close range.
Pakistan officially demands.
Islamabad has denied any role and called for a neutral probe. The nuclear-armed nations have unleashed a raft of measures against each other in response. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Chiakun said on Monday China, a key player in the region, hoped both countries will exercise restraint.
China welcomes all measures conducive to cooling down the current situation and supports an impartial investigation as soon as possible. As a common neighbour of both India and Pakistan, China hopes that India and Pakistan will exercise restraint and meet each other halfway. We should properly handle relevant differences through dialogue and consultation and jointly safeguard regional peace and stability.
The attack has triggered outrage and grief in Hindu-majority India. There have been calls for action against Islamic Pakistan, who New Delhi accuses of funding and encouraging terrorism in Kashmir. Both nations claim the region and have fought 2 wars over the area. India's defence forces have conducted several military exercises across the country since the attack. Some of these are routine preparedness drills, a defence official said. Security forces have detained 500 people for questioning and searched nearly 1,000 houses and forests hunting for militants in Indian Kashmir, a local police official told Reuters. Protests have continued across India as political leaders have called for caution to ensure the innocent are not harmed in the government's actions against terrorism. Kashmir Resistance, also known as the Resistance Front, unequivocally denied involvement in last week's attack in a post on X after an initial message claimed responsibility.
North Korea has officially confirmed that it sent troops to fight alongside Russian forces in Ukraine, marking the first public acknowledgement of Pyongyang's involvement in the conflict. State-run KCNA reported that North Korean soldiers were deployed to assist in the complete liberation of Russia's Kurdish border regime or region under the direct orders from the leader Kim Jong-un. The announcement follows remarks from Russia's Chief of Staff Valery Gershimov, who praised the heroism of North Korea troops last week. Western intelligence agencies estimated that North Korea dispatched approximately 11,000 soldiers to Kurdish last year, with at least 1,000 reportedly killed in combat. KCNA stated that the troop deployment was carried out under a mutual defense treaty between Pyongyang and Moscow, emphasizing the blood-forged alliance between the 2 countries. The U.S. government condemned the confirmation, warning that North Korea now shares responsibility for prolonging the war. The move follows a broader deepening of ties between Russia and North Korea, including a security pact signed last year where both nations pledged mutual support against external aggression. While the North praised its troops, performance concerns persist about the preparedness of the deployed forces, with military experts noting that they are largely untrained for modern warfare. Let's take a look.
North Korea confirmed for the first time on Monday that it had sent troops to fight for Russia in the war in Ukraine. A state TV newsreader said leader Kim Jong-un ordered the deployment, adding that it, quote, proved the firm alliance between the 2 countries. According to state news agency KCNA, Kim's decision to deploy came under a strategic partnership treaty he signed with Russian President Vladimir Putin last year. Citing North Korea's ruling party, it said the move has helped Russia regain control of its western border region Kursk, territory that had been occupied by Ukraine. North Korea sent an estimated 14,000 troops, including 3,000 reinforcements, to replace its losses, Ukraine has said. Ukrainian forces have previously released video showing what they say are North Korean troops in Kursk. Reuters was able to verify the location of the footage, but not the date or the troop affiliations. Pyongyang has also supplied weapons, including munitions and missiles, South Korea has said. On Monday, Putin expressed his personal gratitude to Kim and his country, calling those who gave their lives to fight heroes. Russia acknowledged the North Korean deployment for the first time over the weekend and said Ukrainian forces had been expelled from the last Russian village they were holding in Kursk. Kyiv has denied the claim and said its troops were still operating in parts of Russia. South Korea's defense ministry spokesperson said Monday's confirmation of the troop deployment was an admission of criminal act. The government also condemned the North for what it called an inhumane and immoral decision to send its young people to battle in a move to prop up its regime. The U.S. State Department has demanded an end to the deployment and any support by Russia in return. It also said Russia has violated UN Security Council resolutions by training North Korean soldiers.
Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. White House highlights success in illegal immigration crackdown during Trump's first 100 days in office. Trump pushes for Russia-Ukraine peace deal within 2 weeks. Trump administration rejects Kentucky's request for Real ID extension, signals strict enforcement. Cruz pressures Princeton to dismiss professor over alleged Iran ties, citing threat to student safety. White House praised new Gulf oil production as boost for American energy. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Barbara Sam. Good night and God bless you.